Good afternoon, everybody. It's David Schlotthauer here with another detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion for Friday, August 22nd, 2025. Now, if you haven't been here before and you do find these tropical weather outlook and discussions very detailed, helpful, informative, and life-saving, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that bell notification icon to get all of my daily tropical weather updates, including live streaming coverage of any hurricane or tropical storm before it makes landfall within 24 to 48 hours. Hit that like button and share this video with your family and friends on social media. So here's a look at the latest true color visible satellite imagery here across the entire Atlantic, and we are keeping an eye on a couple of areas of disturbed weather. First of all, towards the northeast of the Leeward Islands, we are keeping a close eye on Invest 90L that is likely to become our next tropical system in the next 24 to 36 hours, potentially, with another area of disturbed weather out here in the MDR. This is headed west towards the Greater and Lesser Antilles, and this is Invest 90L that has a slim possibility of becoming another named storm out there in the Atlantic. With that in mind, here's a look at the latest 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook from the National Hurricane Center. And again, there's those two areas that we're watching very closely. We again have Invest 99L that has a 20 to 30% chance of tropical development over the next 2 to 7 days, where we have another area of disturbed weather that's 90L that has an 80 to 90% chance of tropical development. And if it does become a tropical storm, it is going to get very, very close towards Bermuda in the next 2 to 4 to even 5 days. So anybody living in Bermuda needs to be watching this system very closely, as this has a huge concern of making a very close call with Bermuda. And then, of course, to the north of that, we do have post-tropical cyclone Erin with 90-mile-an-hour winds, pressures down to 957 millibars, and it is moving to the east-northeast at almost 40 miles per hour. This is not going to cause any problems as it is going to go and gain latitude continuously as it moves in this general direction. So with that being said, let's take a look now at our latest deterministic global computer models over the next couple of weeks here, because the Atlantic is looking pretty quiet overall. Although, again, we are keeping an eye on Invest 90L up here and then 99L down here, but otherwise looking nice and quiet in the Caribbean and the Gulf for the time being. But things could change once we go into the middle of September. So putting this into motion here, you can see there is our area of interest that could become our next named storm. This would be Fernand. I think that's how you say it, or Fernand. Either way, it's the letter F storm. And then, of course, over here, we have that area of disturbed weather that could bring in some enhanced rain, some gusty winds towards Barbados, as well as portions there of, say, St. Lucia, as well as Martinique, and possibly in Guadeloupe as that tropical wave transits the area, and even perhaps for Trinidad and Tobago. But we're not expecting any significant development whatsoever with this disturbance right now because of an unfavorable background state that we're entering into. Now, after that, things look nice and quiet out there in the Atlantic. Nothing that rings a bell at all over the next 7 to even 10 days here. And this is where I'm stopping in the forecast, just because we want to keep things really accurate, honest, and life-saving here in the video. Unlike other channels out there, they'll go all the way out in time. And I think 10 days is plenty of warning time if we do see something popping up on the model. And fortunately, for our first day of September here, we got a nice big, large, sprawling high pressure over the Azores, as well as over portions there of, say, Bermuda, known as the Bermuda High. And that's going to enhance our trade winds and keep things pretty stable out here for the latter part of August into early September, possibly throughout the first full week of September. We're looking nice and quiet, I believe. But after that, things could change and get more busier. Now, looking at the European model, what does the Euro have to say in all of this? Well, let's put this into motion. You can see there is that tropical wave that's going to be transiting over portions of the Greater and Lesser Antilles, bringing in some rain, some gusty winds, that sort of thing. And then there is our other disturbance that is going to be working its way to the north. That is Invest 90L. That could become a short-lived tropical depression or tropical storm, and again, get pretty close here towards Bermuda. Somewhere Bermuda is right there. So not too far, within probably about 100 nautical miles, but it's going to be a close call to that small, poor island there. Now, putting this into motion after that, things look nice and quiet, although we do have an area of disturbed weather here, but that's frontal base. That's more subtropical or extratropical coming off the northeast. We're getting into the fall months, so the European model is starting to latch on to some fall systems here. But nothing down here in the deep tropics on both of the deterministic models going forward, which is really nice to see. It's always nice to kind of take a deep breath before we really get into the busy part of the hurricane season, which I believe will be in the middle to the latter part of September, like we had last year and like we had the year before, where it was really, really backloaded. Now, when it comes to those ensembles from the Euro and from the GFS that we'll be looking at here, first of all, the Euro is showing some slim chances of tropical development here in the central and eastern Caribbean. Yes, I know it is the second day after Bill Gray would ring his bell and say, oh, the huge heartbeat of the hurricane season brings in all that activity. Not always. We have had all that activity just now with Aaron for a while. It's nice to see a break, but yes, there is a non-zero chance out here in the Caribbean that this tropical wave eventually would become something, but there is very, very, very low confidence, probably about a 10% chance that this even develops in the Caribbean because of the hostile environment, some vertical wind shear, some drier air entrainment, as well as some sinking in the deep layer of the atmosphere. Just not conducive overall for this wave to have any potential of development. And then, of course, some mixed signals out here, way out in time, beyond the 10-day forecast, which again, we don't want to jump ahead of ourselves and look at a 17 or 18-day forecast, and you might see all these tracks going all over the place just too far out in time. But yes, there are two distinct areas that we will need to watch in the next 7 days. That is 90L and 99L out here in the Atlantic. Looking at the GFS or GEFS ensemble, we can see very little signal being picked up here on the GFS ensemble versus up here, we have a bit of a better agreement that at least a low-grade tropical storm with winds of about 40 or so miles an hour are not out of the question. And then, of course, over here in the Eastern Pacific, we'll need to be watching there closely for the potential for some tropical development as the MJO and some convective coupled Kelvin wave activity favors that area. And then, of course, non-tropical probably coming off of the eastern seaboard in the next 10 days, contributing to all of these wacky tracks that we are seeing. Now, another product that I wanted to show you all is the weekly mean tropical cyclone strike probability forecast over the next 5 to 6 weeks here from the European ensemble. And what we have here is those chances of any development or any strike near you. And so these pink colors indicate a 5 to 10% chance, while these bluer colors indicate a 60 to 80% chance of tropical development. And you can see where Aaron is way up here on the very top part of the image, showing an 80 to 100% chance of tropical formation. So this is running from August 25th through Monday, September 1st. So this begins and ends on Mondays. And when we put this into motion, you can see for week number 2, this would run from September 1st through September 8th. This is when probably towards the 7th and the 8th of September is when these chances would go up pretty quickly. We have a 30 to 40% chance in the MDR for any tropical cyclone chance development versus down here too in the Southern Caribbean where we have a non-zero chance of tropical formation, and chances are relatively higher in the Eastern Pacific. This continues to escalate as we go into week number 3. This would be for September 8th through the 15th. And this is where we have our highest chances out here, which is near normal for this time of the year, climatology based. And over here off the coast of Africa, you have a 50 to 60% chance of a tropical cyclone to develop there, versus over here further west you go, there's only a 5 to 20% chance of formation. This continues all the way into week number 4 here for the middle to the last half of September through the 22nd, where those chances do go up quite quickly here, especially off of Africa, where there is a 60 to 70% chance this far out that there would be tropical formation. And some of those chances go well into the far western Atlantic, where there's a 20 to 30% chance this far out for any development, including for the Gulf and much of the Caribbean. So now you might be wondering, despite the climatological peak here in the Atlantic for late August into the middle of September, you're probably wondering, why are we not going to see activity? And if we do, why will it be hard for any tropical cyclone genesis to take place in the tropical Atlantic? And the reason why that is when we take a look here at our RMM phase 2 diagram here of the Madden-Julian oscillation, which is basically saying what part of the deep tropics are generally favorable for convectiveness, a lot of thunderstorms, enhanced thunderstorm activity, rain, that sort of thing, and lower pressure. And right now, while we are in a favorable environment here, we are just beginning that climatological peak here in the Atlantic hurricane season. Huge tongue twister there. And so it's going to take some time for the Atlantic and for things to line up out there. And I do think they'll line up once we get into the middle of September. Even so, the MJO is not looking very coherent and disorganized here in the unit of circle, which tells us that the MJO is not very strong, not very coherent and organized, where it does a loop like this over the course of 30 to 60 days. And right now you can see it is going to be headed back into the null phase in phases 1, 2, and 3 and remain very disorganized. Versus the GEFS ensemble indicates a bit more of a coherent signal here, at least moving into the null phase and then going all the way back into phase 1, perhaps by the first 5 days of September. That would be September 4th and the 5th, which I somewhat disagree with, given the fact that the Euro has been quite consistent with the GEFS ensemble latching onto that. And so typically, if you want to have a lot of tropical activity in the Atlantic, the Caribbean, and the Gulf, especially for the middle of September, given the fact that we typically see our Central American gyre pick up, you want that MJO primarily in phase 1, 2, and 3 instead of 2, 3, and 4. So we actually favor more of the Western Atlantic, the Caribbean, and the Gulf as we go deeper and deeper into the peak of the hurricane season, if that makes sense. So with that being said, let's take a look now at our sea surface temperature anomalies. And I wanted to show you all something really new that I have not shown in my videos recently here or never. This is from the University of Arizona, showing us historical sea surface temperature trends in the Gulf of Mexico, or the Gulf of America here. Excuse my words. Please don't make a comment saying I said Gulf of Mexico. All right. This is looking at the Gulf of America / Gulf, plain just Gulf. And what we have right now is sea surface temperatures that are very, very, very warm, actually warmer than they were in 2023 and 2024 for this given day of the 21st of August. And why this means a lot is this adds more instability, more moisture in the atmosphere. And so if we get any tropical development in the Gulf or in the Caribbean and moves into the Gulf like we had with Ian, Laura, Michael, Sally, Debbie, as well as Milton, some really big historical systems, including Katrina, most famously for that. This gives us an idea that the Gulf is ready to go. It's a matter of when will things take full advantage of the Gulf later on in the season. When we take a look here at the Caribbean Sea, sea surface temperatures are nearly historically above average here, as far above average as you can possibly get, perhaps. We are warmer than we were in 2023. We are only slightly cooler in the Caribbean than what we were in 2024. But notice where average is here, and we are well above the long-term average in the Caribbean. So again, the Caribbean and the Gulf are locked and loaded, ready to go for what could be an extremely dangerous peak of the hurricane season and a very backloaded one. Here's another look at those sea surface temperatures here in the Gulf, and I will tell you what right now, this is scary. This is not good at all. Sea surface temperatures in the eastern Gulf right now are running right around 87 to 89 degrees Fahrenheit, with some sea surface temperatures right along the coast of Florida here still in the 90s. We got sea surface temperatures in the 90s off of the southwestern coast here of Louisiana. This is not good, folks. This is really a big problem. And the Bay of Youth here in western Cuba, as well as the island of Youth here, water temperatures are also in the upper 80s to lower 90s. So just imagining if we get anything that forms in the Gulf like we had with Milton, boy, it could get wild, dangerous, scary very quickly. We saw what Milton did in the Gulf. I'm not saying we will see Milton 2.0 this year in the Gulf, but what I'm telling you all is water temperatures are very, very conducive. It's only a matter of time when things line up the wrong way. And if they do, we could have a big problem on our hands. Looking at our sea surface temperature anomalies here, definitely well above average here across most of the Gulf and the northwestern Caribbean, running anywhere between about 1.5 to almost 2 degrees above the long-term average. Water temperatures here off the Louisiana and Texas coast near Houston, as well as Corpus Christi, running about 2 degrees above the long-term average for this time of the year. So now looking at the rest of the Atlantic, the Caribbean, and the Gulf, and we can see that pretty much the entire Caribbean and Gulf is ready to go for explosive activity potentially by the middle to the end of September into most of October. Unfortunately, we're going to have, again, a very active backloaded hurricane season, I believe. And here's something that is interesting. Look at where we had Aaron. Aaron carved the gap there of very warm sea surface temperatures. I mean, water temperatures here were pretty much about 30 degrees Celsius, and now they're about 27 to 28 degrees Celsius. And you're probably wondering that, man, David, those waters were very warm there in the southwestern Atlantic, and yet we did not get Aaron to maintain category high in 4 with 155 mile an hour winds, or a category 5. And that is because the background state was not generally favorable. You know, the atmospheric type thing, a lot of deep layer vertical wind shear. We had a little bit of drier air entrainment. And that is why, despite the very warm waters, Aaron was not able to really intensify back into a high-end category 4 hurricane. And that was fortunate because, boy, if we would have had a much stronger hurricane here right off the North Carolina coast, that would have been a really big problem, because I saw some of the footage. There has been a lot of coastal flooding, people trapped in their vehicles because of how much storm surge, coastal flooding there has been due to very large breaking waves. That is still the case today, but those waves are coming down. And you can see here on the sea surface temperature anomaly, look at already what Aaron has done, really has carved the gap significantly here as of the 21st of August, leaving the Caribbean and the main development region untapped. And I'm telling you, once Aaron really comes up into this area, it is going to really chug away at those sea surface temperature anomalies. We're going to lose even more heat out of the ocean up there, bringing our anomalies into more deeper negatives. And with this very, very warm horseshoe shape here out in the MDR, as well as the Caribbean into the Gulf, boy, oh boy, oh boy, we are looking at potentially and an extremely, extremely busy mid, late, early October kind of thing. Again, mid-September, late September into early and even perhaps the middle of October. Brace yourself, folks. We are definitely not done yet. Even so, oh, we get a breather. There's no development. This hurricane season's done, David. No, it's not done. It is not done until we typically get into the middle to the latter part of November. And another thing that I wanted to show you all here is how much tropical cyclone heat potential there is, especially in the Gulf and the northwestern and most of pretty much the Caribbean and the southwestern portion there of the Atlantic. Keep in mind, we did chug away at some of the upper ocean heat content. This has not fully, completely loaded in yet, but I will tell you what, right now, upper ocean heat content is at extreme levels. This is very, very concerning by all means. I mean, look at how much heat there is just waiting to be released into very intense tropical cyclones here, especially in the central northwestern Caribbean, into the Gulf. I mean, if we get a system, and I don't like to fearmonger and cause panic, but this is serious. This is just sickening to see here in today's video. If we get any tropical system, like a tropical wave that develops and does something like this and does kind of like an Ian track, only Ian developed down here, but if we get an Ian-like track that kind of curves like this, or we get a Lara track that kind of does this, boy, we could have some issues on our hands. And I really pray to the Lord that doesn't even happen this year, because I'll tell you, there is enough heat to support intense, violent hurricanes out there in the Gulf and the Caribbean. And here's a look at those heat anomalies out there. The upper ocean heat content anomaly, well above average for most of the Caribbean and the Gulf, running well ahead of where it should be for this time of the year. And that loop current right here, look at that. That's 200 units. And here's another way to look at it. You can see where the loop current is, all that heat piled up in that one area. My gosh, if we get anything, like I said, if we get anything like we had with Laura, like we had with Ian, systems are going to pop. They're going to pop explosively, and we really hope that does not happen. We have really high upper ocean heat content over here in the Western Gulf. And then, of course, in the northwestern Caribbean, I mean, golly, word, off the charts there with that purple. Man, lots of heat waiting to be released into these systems. And again, looking at that anomaly there, well above the long-term average. But anyways, if you haven't been here before and you did like today's detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion, please don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit that bell notification icon so you get daily tropical weather updates, so you don't miss out on any upcoming updates here on the tropics here going forward until the end of the hurricane season. Hit that like button and share this video with your family and friends on social media. As always, have a great rest of your Friday on the 22nd here of August. Have a great day. Be back with you more tomorrow.